It's a joint press meeting with Prime Minister Kristrun Frostadottir and Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission. Madam President, welcome to Iceland.
Thank you.
Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And dear President, dear Ursula, we're so happy to have you here in Iceland. We've had such a fantastic day here, and it's been very important for us to be able to show you how we live here in Iceland. Iceland and the EU has had a long-standing and deep relationship over the course of decades now. We all know the EEA agreement, which opened up big doors of trade and opportunity for us. We're also in cooperation when it comes to border control in terms of Schengen. And now we see ourselves in a different situation as well in the geopolitical area, which has to do with this area that is our backyard, the Arctic, and security and defense. So we thought it would be very fitting that we take this opportunity and have a press conference here in Keflavik Air Base, where you've been able to see how we have been using our facilities as a host nation for NATO. A lot of interesting things that we've seen here, and you can see how a small country like Iceland can truly be a good impact when it comes to the broader region in terms of NATO. But there's also an interest when it comes to defense in relation to Europe. And we know that Europe has been stepping up. Iceland is willing to step up. And so that's what we've been discussing here. I also want to say, before I go over a set of deliverables that we've been agreeing on in the meeting here before, that I think it's very important for us to show you and the whole of Europe how we view security and defense. We went on a helicopter ride. You saw the natural environment that we live in. And I've always said that Icelanders have a much more and bigger security mindset that they think they have. We don't have a military here, but Icelanders are used to living under natural uncertainty. We have very strong civil protection here, very strong search and rescue, and this mindset is going to transfer very well into other areas of defense. So we are well prepared here for whatever might happen. We obviously are facing these risks right now. You saw the volcanic eruption with your very own eyes, and it was very interesting for us to go into Kristrun. So there are challenges ahead, but there's also a lot of opportunity for cooperation going forward. We've discussed briefly and can happily share here, if I just go over this before I give you the word, dear Ursula, that we have decided to launch negotiations on a security and defense partnership. And this is something that we're hoping to finish by the end of the year, maybe over the course of a couple of months. This is very important for us to show that we can have cooperation in critical infrastructure, civil protection, any sort of dual-use defense investment, and this also includes hybrid and cyber threats. This is very important for Iceland and shows that we have a deep trust between these two areas. I want to add to that we can announce that we've concluded the negotiations on our participation in the Secure Connectivity Program. For those that don't know what that means, obviously Iceland is very dependent on cables, any type of connectivity that comes here and helps us basically live our daily lives here in Iceland, but also from a security perspective. And with this, we will get access to satellite backup, which is going to be very important for our defense here and way of life. I also want to mention here trade. We are opening up a comprehensive trade review that we haven't seen basically since we joined the EEA. So there's a lot of opportunities there that I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of. The Arctic, I know, is of interest to the EU, and there we are active participants and are looking forward to seeing what comes out of your Arctic strategy. So there's a lot of interesting focus points for us in cooperation. And I just want to say towards the end here, dear Ursula, these are times that truly call for calm and decisive leadership. I think you've shown the world, not just Europeans, what an incredible leader you are. And we are very honored that you're here with us today and looking forward to an ongoing relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Kristrun Thank you very much for the very warm welcome here in Iceland. And indeed, it has been quite a day, flying over the highlands, the glaciers. So for me, the first time in my life that I saw that is impressive. It's a breathtaking beauty the landscape has. Very impressive. And what was also impressive today was the preparedness mindset that you've just described that you have. You have, as a country, of course, a unique geostrategic position. And with that, you have developed a distinct approach, I would say, to security, resilience, and foresight. You have learned to live with the risks. You have learned to manage the risk and to master the risk. This is something I could see. It was very impressive for me to, with my visit to Keflavik, to see how you manage the risk, how you live with it, and how you adapt to it, but also master it. And meeting the Icelandic Association for Search and Rescue was also an eye-opener to see the capabilities they have. Impressive to see that. So congratulations on that. Iceland's preparedness is not just a policy, I would say it is a way of life. And Europe has much to learn from you in that respect. And it is with that backdrop that I would like to look at the first point, the defense and security topics. You play a critical role, a strategic role in NATO's Arctic and North Atlantic posture. You are a strong and reliable ally. I saw this firsthand indeed in the Keflavik air base. Your preparedness model rests, as you told me, on two solid foundations. One is NATO membership and the other one is the bilateral agreement with the United States. And now we try to strengthen and to add another layer to your security model, if I might call it that way. I'm very pleased also that we are launching the talks or the negotiations for a security and defense agreement. And like you, I'm sure we will be done in a few weeks or months. This partnership will bring Iceland into Europe's security and defense network too, in the wider sense that you have just described. It already counts 8 partners, including Norway, the UK, and Canada. And with this security and defense partnership agreement, you would start to have access to our SAFE program. This is our 150 billion euro joint procurement program that could also then be of interest to you. Through the new partnership, we will be able to cooperate more closely also on hybrid threats that we see on civil protection, for example. As I said there, we can learn a lot from you too. And on the whole topic of cybersecurity, just to name a few topics. My second point is indeed on the Arctic. I saw today the ice is melting and new realities are emerging with that process. Right in, as you called it, Iceland's backyard. Russia and China are increasingly both their economic activities and their strategic presence in this region. And we know that Europe must adopt to these new realities. And this is why we will review our Arctic strategy to ensure that it is fit for the challenges of our time. And here is for us very important to have a very close exchange of views with you, because as I said, from your unique geostrategic position, we can learn a lot from you, and you have a different view on the Arctic, of course, and a different experience of the Arctic. We also, of course, want to work together with you when it comes to strengthen the protection of our critical infrastructure, including subsea cables and power grids. This was also a discussion point today, and it was impressive to see how you prepare for potential attacks on this critical infrastructure. And we want to team up, as I said, on cyber resilience and the secure communications. And in this sense, I'm very glad that we've settled Iceland's participation in the EU's government satellite communication program, in short GovSatcom, and IRIS², our space-based connectivity system that is certainly, as a backup for you, of enormous importance. My third point is on climate. It is the defining challenge of our times. And it is highly visible here in Iceland, where the glaciers are losing billions of tons of ice each year, and I could see the impact that it has on nature here. Your ambition to reach carbon neutrality by 2040 is a strong and a very necessary signal. Impressive. Europe is also on the right path to climate neutrality by 2050. Earlier this month, we have proposed our climate target for 2040. And in our talks, we could both see that our ambitions are very much aligned. So this is why we have agreed to step up our cooperation on climate beyond 2030, in particular to work closely together to achieve the Paris Agreement targets and the ambitions of future COPs. My final point is on fisheries. Here also we've reached an important milestone last week or a few days ago.
Yes.
We have a new memorandum of understanding on fisheries and ocean affairs between Iceland and the European Union. We signed this week. It will strengthen our cooperation on fisheries governance and the biodiversity of our ocean and our shared resources. So it's been a packed day. It's not ended yet.
No.
Thank you very much for hosting me with you, and thank you very much for the impressions you gave me on Iceland.
Thank you, Madam President, Prime Minister. And now we'll take a few questions from the media, starting with the Icelandic Broadcasting Service.
Thank you. Madam President, welcome to Iceland. My name is Björn Malmquist. I'm from Icelandic National Broadcasting Service, based in Brussels, actually. I wanted to ask you about specifically about security and defense, since you already announced this new talks about the bilateral security agreements. In this context, the Icelandic government is planning a referendum about resuming the accession talks with the EU, and as you've said yourself on many occasions, enlargement of the EU now has a distinct geopolitical dimension because of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Given what you just announced with the talks about the new bilateral security agreement, how do you see Iceland fitting into this puzzle that is the sort of the geopolitical enlargement of Europe, of the EU, and what benefits would Iceland bring in this context to the European Union?
So very important is the decision on that is with the Icelandic people. Of course, the Icelandic people have to decide on how close we want to be and how to move forward. I think it is important to recall that Iceland's application to the European membership is still valid. That's very interesting. The country is well equipped to undertake this process. We have the EEA, so Iceland is familiar and integrated in the single market. Yeah. We share values. We know each other very well. We are like-minded. So we're close partners. We share the core values. All this is an asset. And I think, again, it is very important that the Icelandic people decide on how they want to shape their future. But I think listening to the two of us, you see how much we have in common, how much potential there is, untapped potential that we could develop. So this speaks for a very close partnership.
Maybe I can just add on this. Obviously, we know a referendum on sort of reopening the talks is on the agenda. But I also want to say that we've, up until this point, had a very strong relationship, aside from that, with the EU. And this security and defense partnership is something that the European Union has done with Norway, with Canada, with other countries that are not members of the EU. But this just shows how well aligned that we are, that there are great opportunities going forward, and that this just further segments our relationship together. But we've obviously gone over the security dimension with Ursula, and also when we met with NATO leaders in Hague just a few weeks ago, of the strategic position of Iceland, which is obviously, I would say, one of its biggest assets, and And you see here how we're able to build on that our facilities are the biggest thing that we bring to the table. This security and defense partnership would be another layer to what we already have with the U.S., with NATO. That's obviously always going to be the vital factor in our defenses here. But it's very important during these types of times in history that we broaden our scope and we have good allies everywhere.
Thank you. And now news agency SÍN.
Yes, hello, welcome to Iceland, Madam President. My name is Hallgerður Kolbrún Jónsdóttir. I'm a reporter at SÍN. You've seen in your visit now in Iceland how civil defense works in a crisis. And for the past few months, Iceland's position as a key member of defense for NATO and Europe has been reiterated. How do you see Iceland's role in this defense, and how has it been watching key operators working today? And if I may, Kristrun, ask you about this trade agreement review, what are you mostly looking at?
Did I get your question right? It's on civil protection. Yeah. Well, this is impressive what I learned and saw today. How wide the scope is, because you live at this place on the globe and you have to master all the risks. So we can learn a lot. You have a whole of society approach, very strong relying on voluntary input from each and everybody. I think this is one of the big strengths of your model. You have a 360-degree look at risks and how to manage them. So it's not a narrow approach to, let's say, traditional security, but it's a wide approach that is embedded in the whole society or carried by the whole of society, and which is very strongly also calling on each and every individual's responsibility for the whole of society. So that is impressive to see. On the other hand, it's highly modern what equipment is concerned, so that you're able to search and rescue in the widest sense, but also to protect yourself, protect, for example, your critical infrastructure. I learned about the exercises you're doing to protect the critical infrastructure, and so far that you're training what happens in case that a data cable, one of the crucial data cable, is being attacked severe and hurt severely. And by doing these exercises, you learn where the gaps are that you have to fill, but also where the strengths are that you have to multiply. Mm-hmm. So very impressive, and something, as I said, where we can learn from each other.
Mm-hmm. Just before I go into the trade question very briefly, we have this saying in Iceland, glögt gests augað, or sometimes an outsider's perspective makes you realize the grand scheme of things. And there's been a lot of discussions about security and defense in Europe now, especially, obviously in the U.S. as well, but Europe stepping up. Iceland has been a member of these discussions. And I think a lot of Icelanders feel like that this is something very far from us because we don't have a military. We haven't been active participants in that sense. But what you see is when this all comes together in a day like this is how prepared we are for a lot of the issues that are coming up, really, this resilience mindset, this preparedness mindset that Ursula is talking about. And I think sometimes Icelanders are not aware that this DNA that we have in us, it's not necessarily to be found everywhere, the way we think about being prepared. And so we will always be playing on our strengths when it comes to security and defense. There's not going to be a change in how we address those. And that's why it's so important for us to be able to show the president how we do things. Just briefly on trade, we obviously are part of the EEA, but we don't have full market access when it comes to the products, and so we have tariffs and there are some market barriers. This is something that we're going to be looking into. This is a big change for us, or could be a big change if we see opportunities there, because this review hasn't taken place since we joined the EEA. We obviously have things that we specifically want to discuss. I can point here for Icelanders, for example, fish, the access of seafood and those types of products into the EU. But this is obviously still something that has not been discussed. We're just open to having these negotiations, and I see great opportunities on that end. But this dialogue is just starting.
Thank you. And the final question from Morgunblaðið.
Madam President, my name is Herman from the Daily Morning Paper. The Icelandic government plans to apply for EU membership for the second time and already seeks alignment with the community in foreign policy and other areas. However, one of the coalition parties is against joining the EU, as are all the opposition parties. Doesn't that make any accession talks moot if there isn't a parliamentary majority for joining? And if I may add, I would like to ask why you insisted that the media send the questions in writing a day before the press conference. Are you unable to answer unscripted questions?
So the last part of your question is not known to me. The first part of your question, it's a sovereign decision that the Icelandic people take here. So it is dependent on the policies and the discussions in Iceland, so it's not a topic for me to comment on.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can comment on this briefly, and I think the way Ursula is answering this question is very emblematic of how the EU is approaching these types of topics. They know this is a sovereign decision. We have said that the referendum is not now on joining the EU, it's whether we go for these talks again. This is going to take up some oxygen in our system, but we think it's well worth it. We, however, want to get a mandate from the Icelandic public. All three coalition parties agree that we should have this referendum, and this third party that you're referring to wants to respect whatever decision comes out of that referendum, like every other party in this coalition. I will respect whether it's a yes or a no, and the other coalition parties will respect whether it's a yes or no. So at this point, this is where we're at. We will see what comes out of the referendum. I think that is the ultimate mandate, I will say, that we get the people to say what their thoughts are on this matter. And like I said, we have a willingness that is very clear within the coalition that we will respect whatever comes out of this referendum.
Thank you. And with that, we conclude this press meeting. Thank you.
Tack fyrir.